Welcome back to another video, part 6. So you need to try and get the wheels inside the arch, or arch line, body line, and I'm going to have to narrow the axle to do that. The axle's a little bit wide, and plus got to get rid of those bits that stick out. I've got some bits that came through the post. So these are some CRG calipers which I think I can get to fit inside the front wheel. There's just enough clearance here to get them to work on those discs, which would be good. Got a couple of clamps to hold the steering rack. The steering rack from eBay or Amazon is a bit rubbish. This is a cap which goes over the back of the pinion, but I don't know if you can see that there is a lot of play in all sorts of directions. I don't know if it's got a bearing in the front there, but I talked to Casper at Ghost Fab and we noticed there's a spigot there, so I could put a bearing on that and then maybe an aluminium spacer to put it in that diameter, try and make it a bit better. Got a split sprocket for the back axle. That's the old front sprocket, don't know what ratio we're going to end up with, and some keyways for the axle. Hoping to maybe even get a first drive today. Right, let's get to it. That's one advantage of having a big lathe. It's quite easy to cut some pieces off and clean up, get all the rust and all the burrs and everything off of it. So that is the engine in. I've got the chain connected up. A couple of woodruff keys which are drilled in 2 places. See, this one's sticking out quite a long way, but it goes that way as well. So that's what holds the woodruff key in, as opposed to just the flat that's machined on the axle. I've got woodruff key in for that hub, but not that one yet. Engine's welded in place, but I need to put a couple more mounting points or steadies. The exhaust, I've got a right angle section which will come out of there, just because the premix will probably chuck some oil out. I don't want that on the brake disc. Got both front calipers on. Just looking at mounting the rack. So I've added this bit of steel tube across here. The rack, I talked earlier about a plastic insert that was in there, but it didn't locate on the centre of the pinion spigot. So I've put a bit more grease in there, because the grease in there was a bit rubbish, and made this support plate. And then I've got these clamps around the rack, which I should better weld directly to that cross member, which is what I'm going to do next. So that is the rack welded in place, just temporarily. Just sort of tacked it at the front. The water underneath is from cooling it down after I welded it. I've made up some track rod ends. This is using the original track rod ends that were supplied, one end, and then a left hand rose joint on the other. Had to modify the rack ends slightly just to get a bit more lock. That's obviously one without the boot. But that is the steering. There's quite a bit of grease on these. Put those boots on and make a column. Put the steering column on. This is the column that was supplied with the Amazon rack. Realised that I'd got the rack up the wrong way, so just had to undo the clamps, flip it over, and now it's in the right place. Next, apart from getting the brakes to work, still got the old calipers on there at the moment, I need some brake pipes. Might have fittings for these hoses, but I need to go to Banjo's for the calipers. And then next is really to get Maddie back in here for final fit of steering column position and pedals and seat. So that is probably it for this week. Thanks for watching.